Let's take a trip back into the 70s and realize the importance of soul music. Soul music conveys a lot of emotions towards the listener. Sometimes it can make you love the fact of being in love. And excuse the fact that that record is skipping, because that record's been skipping. I just want to turn that off. But back to this. It might give the feeling of being loved. It might give you the feeling of rebellious. It might give you a chance of feeling. Whatever it is, 70s soul in particular was a very special and seminal era. Excuse me for 1 second. My apologies, everybody, but what was very important about soul music was a live performance. The audience gets to see raw emotion on stage. They get to see the artist exposing himself poetically in a way that no other era can ever be matched. Two albums, I believe, have been regarded as some of the best live soul albums of that decade. Earth, Wind, and Fire's Gratitude, released in 1975, and Marvin Gaye's Live at the London Palladium, released in 1977. Now, I was really gonna do individually gonna review these albums individually, but I was kind of, how to get certain reviews out the way and stuff like that, trying to get certain shit out the way, have some things coming up. So I was like, you know what, why not just put those two albums together? Because both those albums was released within 2 years of each other. Both those albums have been loved by their diehard fan bases. So I was like, you know what, that's not a bad idea. So I'm definitely going to begin with Gratitude since it was released first. Now, you guys definitely know who Earth, Wind, and Fire are. I've reviewed That's the Way of the World, Open Our Eyes, um, Keep Your Head to the Sky, and I'm definitely reviewing this album now. Um, so yeah, Earth, Wind, and Fire was definitely at they were definitely like at their prime back in 75. I won't say they were at their peak yet. Stay tuned on that part, and Columbia Records at that time, they wanted more material because they were popular, so more material meant more money. And not only were they having a good reputation, on wax, but they had the reputation of their elaborate live shows and shit like that. So, excuse me, excuse me. So that's why like in 75 they dropped the Gratitude album and shit like that. Now it's not an all the way live album because there's certain studios tracks here which I'll get into. But at the same time, this album right here is a very seminal part when it comes to Earth, Wind, and Fire, especially a lot of diehard Earth, Wind, and Fire fans. A lot of diehard Earth, Wind, and Fire fans love this album and shit. Like some people even love it more than That Story of the World and shit. So, alright, so the cover, pretty straightforward cover. Have like a white, and they have Earth, Wind, and Fire, Gratitude. In my opinion, this is probably one of the most simplest album covers that they've ever done, in my opinion. One of the most like straightforward, simplest album covers and shit. Then, you got, them right here, all the members and shit. And speaking of all the members, let me talk about the personnel in this adaptation. I believe, the lineup was pretty much the same. Of course, Philip Bailey, Maurice Wright, Benita Wright, main arrangers, Larry Dunn on organ, Bob Johnson on drums, Al McKay guitar, Yeah, the lineup was pretty much straightforward, like pretty much the same as before. Maurice White, Charles Stepney, and Joe Wester. Joe Wester, he was polishing the live shows and shit like that. Yeah. So yeah, so this is the album right here. This is actually a double album, so that's like very similar because back in the day, live albums mostly were double albums. Like Live at the Palladium was a double album. I believe Smokey Robinson's his late '70s live album. I forgot the name of it. It has the cover with him in the afro. I think that was a double album. Um, yeah, most '70s live albums like were double albums and shit like that. So if especially when it came to like vinyls and shit, because when it's like re-released in CDs, of course they have to compact or compress it so it can be like a single disc and shit. But me personally, when it comes to like getting shit like that, I prefer getting the vinyl version of it. That's just me personally. So yeah. What else? Okay, so what else? What else? What else? What else? What else? All right, so singles albums known for are Single Song and Can't Hide Love. Both of them very dope song, and that's another thing too about this album. Like, not only are you experiencing much of a live experience, but at the same time, it's giving you very much like bonus material and shit like that. So that's one thing I've always loved about Gratitude and shit. Um, all right, so as for like, I'm gonna talk about certain songs for this live album, shit like that. Um, Basically, okay, let's see it. Okay, so the introduction was made by MC Perry Jones, and then you had the Africano slash Power. Very dope, fast rhythm rendition of that song and shit like that. Um, I love the drums on the drum pattern on that live version. Yearning Learning was dope. Devotion was dope. Um, then they did like a live version of Sun Goodness, which was a single by Ramsey Lewis and shit like that, and Earth, Wind and Fire would collab and shit. That was on, I believe that was on Ramsey Lewis's. Let me look it up. I'm sorry. The Sun Goodness album, which Maurice White did production for. I've heard great things about that album, so I'm definitely gonna check that album out and shit like that. So that was a dope cover too. But when it comes to my favorite song, it has to be the live edition of Reasons and shit. Wait, that's my favorite live song. I'm going to leave that right. So that's my favorite live song. Just to be fair, because Philip Bailey went in on that live edition. That's one thing I always loved about watching Reasons live. Like when Philip Bailey just just lets it just go all out and shit. Like very dope, very dope, very dope. Single Message to You was Shining Star. The version of Shining Star, it was good, but I had it took me a while to get used to the faster rhythm of that song and shit like that. But at the same time, that was, it's still a dope song. It's still one of their best songs and shit. But I kind of prefer the That's the Way of the World rendition of it. Then you get to this instrument like a New World Symphony. Very dope ass song right there. That song has been sampled a lot of times in hip hop and R&B. Everybody from Genuine to Drake sampled that shit. Very dope. It has a very eerie new world African rhythm going on with it, shit like that. Sunshine was cool. Then we get to sing a song. I love that song. That's one of those feel good songs right there. In my opinion, I would consider that to be their signature song. Singer song. I would definitely consider Singer Song to be their signature song. No ifs, ands, or but. Yes, I would say Reasons will probably be my single favorite Earth, Wind, and Fire song, but when it comes to like what the song that I always feel like they'll be best known for, even if they're not people are not fans of Earth, Wind and Fire, it would definitely be Sing a Song and shit like that. So then Gratitude was alright, Celebrate was cool, and the last song, Can't Hide Love. Oh my god, that is I love that song. That's my favorite studio track on the album. Like that song actually was nominated for Grammy for Best Instrumentation Arrangement, um, accompanying vocalist, vocalist and shit. And I don't blame it because when you hear that, ba 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 da da, then all of a sudden you hear them harmonizing towards like the mid, uh, like every time I hear that, always gives me chills and shit like that. Like only great music can give the listener chills and shit. And yeah, that song right there, that's like one of those songs you will play Friday night. You about to do your thing and shit. You just in the driving and shit. It's late at night. You see all the buildings light up and shit. Like that's like one of those perfect songs right there. Can't Hide Love. Definitely, I love the harmonizations of the song too. Like very dope. I can't say enough good things about that song. Like I might even play that song after this video ends. That's how much I love this. But overall, Gratitude, definitely a very dope live album. I love this album and shit. This is the album that I would even, and it takes me, I would have to say, when it comes to like live albums or like lost B-side albums, certain albums like that, if the album is like really, really, really good and seminal, I would consider that an album on its own, in my opinion, and shit like that. Like I would say like this could be like an album on its own, and it would still be a very dope album. It's certain like compilations and live albums I would consider, but it's not everyone because there's some live albums where people are gonna be like, oh yeah, that would be it's a live album. But when it comes to if you have that thunderous appeal, you guys know what I'm getting at and shit. So yeah, Gratitude, very dope album. Love this album and shit. I do apologize for the condition of this album because I got this for $1 back at the record store, I think about a couple months back. And I was like, fuck it, because in Amazon, it would be like about $10 on Amazon and shit like that. Plus, it was the reissue, and this is the OG copy. So I'm just like, it's a win-win situation. But the reissue, in case you guys are wondering, it was reissued back in 1999, and I believe it's still been on print since. What it's got to be is Earth, Wind and Fire. And this was actually the second best-selling R&B album of 1976. So, Gratitude, very good album. Highly recommend it if you're Earth, Wind and Fire fan. But at the same time, this is the last full album that Charles Stepney worked with Earth, Wind and Fire. Stay tuned on that on my next Earth, Wind and Fire review. Now, give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Anyway, the next album I am about to review is a personal favorite of mine. And that album is going to be, of course, I mentioned, Marvin Gaye's Live at the London Palladium, released in 1977, on Motown Records and shit like that. This album right here, whew, very dope album. This album is... Oh, I'm sorry. One thing I forgot to mention too about Gratitude before I get started with this one. A lot of the renditions on that song was a lot more jazzier and shit like this. And that would really expose them to like a lot more jazzier and darker, to say the least, spirit. But stay tuned on that one. But back to this album. This album was very, very, very good album. And just like Gratitude, it did come out with a single, and that single is, of course, the infamous Got to Give It Up. Now, of course, this album was released in 1977, and it bridged the perfect gap between his sensual "I Want You" and his misunderstood tragic "Hear My Dear." And so, when it comes to Live at the London Palladium, I pretty much consider this to be really the last album Marvin was truly, I would say, you can hear the happiness in his voice and shit. Compared to like Hear My Dear and In Our Lifetime. Midnight Love, I would say some songs he kind of had more of a happy tone, but I will save most of my discussion on that album when the time is right, aka when I actually do cop the album. Um, but yeah, back to Live at the London Palladium. So this was released right after I Want You, and he was touring in Europe and shit like that. And Marvin really did not really have like, this was really the album that kind of broke him out into Europe, to say the least, and shit, because the shows was critically acclaimed and got Marvin's high praise and shit like that. Because this was him at his most sensual and shit like that, at his most smoothest, in my opinion. And so, you know about Marvin, you know when you listen to him live and shit, um, like to hear him mumbling and stuff like that. You gotta hear him, have that smooth ass voice. It's just Marvin and shit. Although a lot of people do kind of prefer the 1974 live album, while I do love that album, this is the album I kind of felt like the renditions on the songs were better and more jazzier, to say the least. Like, you would add like a swanky Las Vegas club jam to this shit. So with this album, not only did it contain material from I Want You, but it did contain material from his older albums, like What's Going On and Let's Get It On, and including like the Trouble Man medley, and of course the classic medley of all of his 60s hits, which was um like he did like he actually did two medleys, excuse me. One medley he did of his classic 1960s hits, like you had Ain't That Peculiar, Stubborn Kind of Fellow, Little Darling I Need You. But side 3, he does like this like first he does like this medley where he does like this Tammy Terrell tribute. Actually, it's like a Tammy Terrell tribute and shit like that. But at the same time, he included the song "It Takes Two," the song he did with Kim Weston, I believe back in 1964, I believe. And so, right there, he did close it off with "Distant Lover." While I do admit that "Distant Lover" was very dope on this version, I would say that the version on the 1974 live version is triumphant among this version, to say the least, but it's still Distant Lover. Now, side 4 has Got to Give It Up. Now, Got to Give It Up, what can I say about Got to Give It Up? It is definitely a song that can get any party jumping and shit like that. The irony thing about Got to Give It Up was the fact that the song is basically talking about, I'm going to slow down on partying and shit like that. I'm going to slow down on partying. But at the same time, it has been a party staple and stuff like that. Every time you hear that, dun dun dun, dun dun, like, you can't do that but just dance to it. Like, Marvin is saying, I used to go out and party. Can't stand it. Like, that's that jam, though, low key. And for all my Aaliyah fans, she did a cover with Slick Rick on the One in a Million album. Of course, Slick Rick was in prison at that time, so he wasn't in the video for that song. But that was actually a pretty good cover as well and shit like that. And, of course, you guys should know that you know, that song was, of course, in the subject of controversy when it comes to recent times when Marvin Gaye's family are suing Robin Thicke, Pharrell over the song being similar and shit like that. That fucking bullshit. I'm not even gonna dwell on that, to be real with you. But when it comes to my favorite songs on this album, um, I loved his rendition of "Since I Had You." Like, I don't know, when it comes to "Since I Had You," this version is just so ill and shit like that. It's so much better than the album version. I definitely loved his version of basically his version of the "I Want You" songs. That could have just been that alone is the reason why I would recommend this album and shit like that. Like, I look at the album cover, like, just killing it and shit, man. Like, look at that shit, man. Like, I just feel like the "I Want You" songs, like, all the way around, "Since I Had You," um, even the intro theme and shit like that, I would say got to give it a, like, even I would kind of consider that to be like a maybe a B side or an outtake and shit. It just sounded so crisp and clear and shit like that. Like, even for its time, it just sounded so heavenly and shit, man. Like, this is definitely the perfect cousin companion piece to "I Want You" in terms of production. And speaking of production, let's talk about how although Leon Ware did produce like a lot of the shit on I Want You, all the shit on the "I Want You" album, Art Stewart took over the section when he produced this album. And you guys probably heard the name Art Stewart. If you follow Rick James and shit like that, on my Rick James has he was producer for Rick James for I believe his first two albums and shit like that. Stay tuned, because I'm definitely gonna do some Rick James reviews after I wrap up some Stevie Wonder. Once I wrap up, maybe after I wrap up either "Songs in the Key of Life" or "Journey Through Lives and Plans," one of those albums, then I'm gonna start talking about Rick James and shit. But that's gonna be maybe around November, December. I'm gonna talk about him. But yeah, with this album, definitely a very dope album. I can't say enough good things about these two albums. Like, very wonderful album. Um I love just the sensual and shit like that, the sensualness. And as ironically, this was reissued on CD in 1999, the same year as Gratitude, and it was issued on just one compact disc and shit like that. Man, it's just like, that's one thing. Keep the vinyl alive. That's all I gotta say. If you guys love music, really love music, find your local vinyl store. You will appreciate music in a much better if you have vinyls and stuff. That's all I gotta say. And that's one thing I love doing these live album reviews and shit like that. It's just so much importance of vinyl music and shit. Although, like, the first one, of course, it was the MTV Unplugged of Nirvana, it was a CD of that album. It's still, like, that's one thing I want to do, live reviews and shit. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. And in case you guys were wondering, I knew I should have mentioned this in the beginning of the video. I know I was scheduled to do a video with Mike Sears on the Guns N' Roses "Use Your Illusion," but we actually had to postpone that video because the fact he had to handle some personal matters and shit like that. So, Mike, if you're watching this, hold your head up. Hit me up. I'm down to do whatever. Let me know what time. I'll work it out. But as usual, this is your boy Reg and shit. And as I'm gonna say this as usual. Drop them questions. That Q&A is coming soon, mid-October and shit. And I'm definitely gonna I do have a CD collection. I'm waiting on a couple more CDs in the mail. If I don't hear back by the end of this week, I might just go ahead and just review what I got and just do a separate video on the other ones and stuff like that. But that's if I don't hear back from the end of this week and stuff like that. But I have a feeling it's gonna come this week because this damn hurricane kind of ruined up my package plans and shit. But I'm just thankful I'm alive, and I'm definitely thankful that everybody, well, most of everybody in North Carolina survived that hurricane, and the people who are damn suffering from it, hold your head up and shit. Um, anything else I'm going to say? I believe my next review, oh, and yes, my next review, my next hip hop is going to definitely be the GZA Beneath the Surface. I don't actually have the album yet, but I'm definitely going to get the album soon. But the reason I'm just going to read the album because I don't really have that much things to say about the album, but stay tuned.